we take this from West Africa down to South Africa, where some good news came in today for intra-Africa trade as South Africa, the continent's most advanced economy, joined the preferential trade framework of the AfCFTA. The news comes as South Africa reports a trade surplus of 14 billion rand for December last year. Now, chatting to these South Africa's latest developments from Johannesburg is Chris Hart. He's the executive chairman at Impact Africa Investment. Thank you for connecting tonight on the show. It's good to see you tonight, Chris. Let's start. Big cheering news for South Africa joining the preferential trade agreement of the AfCFTA. What do you make of that?
I think it's a critical step forward to the development of the African economy as a whole. And I speak that in generally because it enables inter-country trade within Africa. If you look at Europe, most of the trade occurs between European countries, same with North America and Asia. In Africa, we tend to trade externally with other partners and not much with ourselves. So the Free Trade Organization helps, firstly, to develop. It opens the possibility. In other words, it's an enabler, which enables countries to develop their competitive advantage and trade with their neighbors and trade with other people in the continent with their competitive advantages, which was not necessarily available. And that I do believe will bring in new investment and it'll bring in new growth to take advantages of these opportunities. I think trade it helps to facilitate investment, so you'll not only get trade improving between African countries, you'll see investment between African countries also grow because it's the two tend to go together, and that's why you'll get the actual African economy reinforcing itself. In other words, you'll keep more money within the continent. It's what we call a circular economy on a continental basis. We often talk about the circular economy on a microeconomic level, but this is more a circular economy on the macroeconomic level that will assist and benefit the African economy. So it is good news, and it comes at a time where your external partners, such as the US, etc., with their AGOA, South Africa is at risk of losing its preferential access to the American market under AGOA because of diplomatic reasons. This, I think, can help to counterbalance that.
Interesting, as we saw South Africa's trade a surplus about 14 billion rand. I'm sure that's in the news earlier today. But the IMF yesterday called South Africa's growth outlook to just about 1%, citing the problems, the unresolved problems of Transnet, that logistics giant. Well, what has been done to resolve the Transnet crisis, Chris?
Well, at the end of the day, you've seen this pattern for the last 10 years or more, where growth is predicted to be higher than what it actually comes in, and growth has really been sub 1% for the last 10 years. And that really is because of what I call self-inflicted problems. The logistics, for instance, and things like Transnet is really collapsing the magnet of South Africa as an economy. Is diminishing. For instance, within Southern Africa, the port of Maputo is being developed as an alternative to Durban, for instance, and that is a very successful move at the moment because of the problems we're seeing in Durban. It's not just the logistics; it's also it's electricity. It's various factors that South Africa should be on top of, and that were on top of it. And these were, you could say, much vaunted characteristics of the South African economy a few years ago that has really been tarnished in the last few years. Also, rural safety, even if you get the goods through the port, there's intimidation of trucks and burning of trucks on the actual national roads, which hasn't really been fully brought under control. So it becomes problematic. So South Africa then becomes an a destination to avoid rather than a destination that gets attracted to that. And the loss of the business there, it gets transferred to other countries, and of course it impedes the growth in South Africa quite a bit. Our growth has been below the population growth rate for quite some time now.
Interesting, but one of South Africa's leading banks is optimistic. That's Investec. It's optimistic that more investments or mergers and acquisitions will happen in South Africa this year because the global economy is recovering, just as we listened to the IMF chief economist yesterday to that. Do you share this outlook that more investment will be coming into South Africa this year, despite the various headwinds, both externally and within the country?
I think the diplomatic, South Africa's on the wrong side from a diplomatic point of view. I think you've got to have countries like Iran, etc., counterbalancing the potential loss of trade and that comes, maybe from the US and Europe, that might be a little bit more at risk. It's not an easy position. Interest rates have risen quite a bit, and there's the infrastructure problems. I think the Investec's view would be on the basis that the potential is there and it should be unlocked, but for these what are called self-inflicted problems that we've got in the South African economy. We get rid of that, and really the South African economy should be well ahead of where it is at the moment.
Okay, the general elections in South Africa is still in April, so we've got time to touch base with you before then. Chris Hart in Johannesburg, thank you very much. We'll talk about the elections and what's the outlook from an investment perspective. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening out there in Johannesburg. Thank you, Chris Hart of Impact Africa Investment in Johannesburg tonight.